Select Board for Monday, December 3rd. Would you please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, turn off my cell phone. Oh yeah, that might be a bad idea. We had an executive committee just before this meeting, and to let you know, it was just discussing contractual issues, and nothing came out of that meeting which would require any action by the board. Okay, the first order of business is warrants.
I have the general warrants dated 12/03/18. There were 99 invoices for a total of $74,667.09. Of the 99 invoices, we had Resource Systems Group Better Communications Grant. That was $12,843, 17%. But if I hook that with the previous grant, we've spent like $28,000 there. So I know Ned is taking care of that and watching that. Then the other one was Center for Rural Studies. It's the survey. We sent out twice. We sent out surveys, 1,600 each time.
Yep.
To get a response of probably 458, some number like that. That was $10,250. That was 14%. The other one really wasn't a big one. Was Island Tree Service, $7,100. There's some trees that were down in the park, both parks. So that was taken in Cargill salt for our winter roads. And you're doing a hell of a good job again, Alan. Keep it up. So,
Isn't it?
Excuse me.
so you were laughing.
No.
That's it, Bill. I would make a motion that we accept.
Any questions or comments? Sure. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
I have a warrant for the industrial park. I was just going over it's for drum septic service in the amount of $5,445.40, and that's a lot. I mean, I see all the times he's been there, and I also see that when he goes there to pump that out, did they go into the tank?
Yeah, you have to clean it.
Okay,
So
because
it's confined space.
confined space is $200. Yeah.
And
Well, I'm
the
not
other
saying.
thing that made it a little bit higher this time was where the inlet comes into our tank. I found the original plans when that got built, and the pipe should have been cut back about 20 feet away. And we were having a lot of problems with the vacuum pumps, and I've been working with the engineers, and so I had them cut the pipe back to where it should have been years ago. Because what's happening is with the temperature changes from the factories and it dropping right near our inducer, it's causing a lot of air, and we believe that might be causing a lot of our problems with the vacuum pumps. So the price would have been a little bit higher this time because I had to have them cut that pipe out inside the tank.
I only have one question for you. They're charging us $1,100 for what they call van service. Okay, and I thought, well, maybe that's part of the pumping process, but it isn't, because there's an additional $400 for pumping. What is a van service for $1,100?
So it's a 64,000 gallon tank. So when that gets pumped all the way to the bottom and they clean all the sludge out, our pumps empty out. So the van service actually hooks up a primer system back on those pumps. You get the two big pumps that have to
It's
get
for
reprimed.
augering and jetting? Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's quite
Okay.
a process.
So I know it's a lot of money, but sounds like they work for it. So I suggest we approve this warrant for.
Any questions or comments by anybody on that?
The only comment I would make is those are billed back to the industrial park businesses.
Oh, it is?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
anything in the industrial park
Okay.
is billed back to them.
Yeah.
Well, it's a necessity,
Well,
so.
we have had a lot of problems with those pumps over the years.
Yeah.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion carries.
I have our payroll warrants for, I have one dated November 23rd, 2018 for a fairly normal amount of $17,577.60. And I have November 30th payroll warrant. That included our quarterly,
Monthly.
monthly retirement and taxes. And that payroll warrants in the amount of $33,519.95. I'll make a motion we approve both.
Okay, any questions or comments about the payroll accounts? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Okay, moving right along. We have minutes. Al, you're still here for the minutes?
Yes, I am. You should have a set of revised minutes. And I move that they, for the minutes for November 19th, and also the minutes for November 27th be approved as written.
Okay.
No changes?
No changes.
Yeah.
They're already
No, the
changed.
changes actually are in red pen and
Oh,
the
okay.
track
Yeah, that's
changes.
not the
There's
one.
a,
Alrighty.
Book, right. Okay.
It was a run-on sentence, which bothered me.
You learned your English grammar in
How
the last
offensive.
century like I did.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Brendan, you have the floor, I think.
All right. So when the board decided to appoint me to the 1 year remainder of a term on the planning commission, I said that if anybody had ever come forward willing to take my spot, I would resign. And it looks like, more than 6 months later, that's happened, and I'm really excited about it. So I'll be resigning from the planning commission tonight.
Okay.
Would you like to introduce the newcomer? Or?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your service. We're sorry you didn't feel compelled to fight for your seat, but you can do it from here.
Yeah,
Okay.
nice to have new
Again,
people.
thank you so much, Brendan. We appreciate it. We wish we could get more volunteers for all the different boards we have. Okay. We have one. We've advertised for the position, and we have for DRB as well. The planning commission, we have one letter of interest, and that's from Aaron Creeley. Do we have a Aaron? Why don't you come up and give us a little background about yourself?
Hi everyone, thank you. So again, my name is Erin Creeley, and I live on the corner of Bronson and Lake Road. I've been living here in Saint Albans since 2016 with my husband and our 2 cats. And I come to love Saint Albans town and would really like to become more involved in the future of this town. And one of the ways that I see being involved is through the Planning Commission, and I would be very excited to participate and contribute in a meaningful way to the town.
That's great. Thank you. Do you mind if I ask what you do?
Sure. So I work at One Care Vermont, which is the accountable care organization, and it's working on healthcare reform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for volunteering.
Okay.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So you're asking to be appointed to the term ending in March 2021.
Okay.
Okay. So now you have a long-term commitment.
Right.
Okay.
that was the term that Brendan is vacating.
Okay.
Oh, we're really excited to have you. You have a BA from McGill and an MBA from UVM, and I'm really excited to have a well-educated young person here to help take up the cause. I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to appoint Aaron Creeley to the remainder of the term I just vacated ending 2021.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Aaron, thank you so
Welcome.
much. Welcome aboard. Now the work begins.
Next
I
week.
see they're jumping right into bylaw
Yeah.
review and revisions. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
So the third item on there was we did advertise for DRB alternate positions. We did not get any letters of interest, but there still remains 2 open spots as alternates on the DRB, which would be helpful actually. Kind of give somebody a little step into that process because they are needed occasionally, but maybe not every single meeting. They also meet twice a month.
I found that being on the DRB, the zoning board, is very good training, as it were, for the planning commission. And it is quite a bit of fun, quite interesting, and you know what's going on, you know what the rules and regulations are. Trying to act in the best interest of the town. So we're reaching out. We're looking for volunteers for alternates for the DRB. So anyone interested, please come forward.
I have to agree with Bill. Being a former member of each board, I found it very interesting, very educational, and really helped me step into the position of a selectman as well.
So given that you can see us all being old,
Not all.
it's time for younger people to step up and start learning so they can replace us as we kick off.
Okay.
I'll agree with that.
We don't mind getting pushed out.
I'll agree with that. Bill, Stan, and Al.
I'm glad you remembered our names.
All right.
Are reaching that age.
In case the communications have improved, hopefully somebody can call in if they wish on 524-2415. This is not a test. Hopefully it works.
Right. You should be live right now.
Okay, moving right along. Carrie, you're up.
All right. So the first item under here does not necessarily require a motion, but it is your first draft of the community survey we just referenced during our warrants from the Center for Rural Studies, or CRS as it's referred to within that draft document. So we do have a copy of the first draft for your review. Just kind of digesting it. There's a lot of information in there. I mean, I think there's 6 pages of comments under just other towards the end. So there's a lot of
Some of the comments people put in, not in response to questions. You know.
Yeah.
right,
What do you think about things? And what do you want? What don't you want? And
right.
they're really interesting and quite educational. Some of them are humorous, some of them are not.
So, absent any, significant issues with it, we can, allow the public to read it and put it on our website.
Yeah, I think we can put it up on the website. There shouldn't be any substantive change to this.
I don't believe so, but I'd like you all to review it and get back to me next week.
But I thought they asked for us to talk about it and to see where there were where different questions allowed them to do a Chi chest, I think was the term.
Yes,
You do what?
To do a Chi chest to see the relationship between 2 different questions.
right. They asked if
Yeah.
if we should continue.
Yeah,
and
how many of these can we do? Because I'd like to take a look at something based on the demographics. How is this
Yes.
question answered?
I didn't ask how many
from
we
the,
can
from
do.
the young to the graybeards.
Right.
Yep.
What was the distribution of answers?
Well, the distribution was unfortunate in that, again, it was the elderly that responded,
Right.
Yeah, well,
who had the least long-term.
true. But
Action.
the elderly, me included, have the greatest impact from taxes on their financial security. So they have a lot at stake. I'm glad you're willing to pay all these taxes out.
Yeah, I am, because I invest in, I believe in the future. People did it for us. When I think back to my parents and what they did, the taxes that they approved. Remember after World War II, the taxes on the rich was
I
90%.
Too young now.
I wasn't.
So your question was how
I have
many
no idea
different...
what you guys are talking about.
It's pretty vague, but so how many different analysis would you like?
I'd like to see what we can do. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
talk
What
separately.
are our options?
Yeah.
Bill, could we have one of a select board meeting, maybe the next one, set aside maybe 15 minutes for discussion on that?
Fine with me.
You'd
Okay.
have
Depending
to,
how heavy
we have to limit it to 15 because
Yeah.
it could go on for a long time.
It could.
Yes.
Do you want to invite Amy or the other gentleman who helped us to come to a
Yeah, we
meeting?
could probably
Yeah.
get some idea of what separate analysis can be done.
Okay.
Get that done, and we do the whole thing at one time.
Was it a large, I was interested, is it a large group that had no opinion? You know,
It seemed like they,
we based this on some confidence level that the interest we're getting, we could make a sound judgment based on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one issue where the 0 to 5-year-olds made comments. Now, who the heck asked them?
I don't think they were on the list,
Well,
Yeah, it is.
but it
I
did
see
say
0 to
that.
5-year-olds out in protests, so I don't know. You tell me about that too.
But out of 3,200 surveys that went out,
Oh.
we got 458. What confidence level is that?
Well, it's
Gotcha.
488, yeah.
It was supposed to be whatever they started with, 95,
They told us-
96.
Someone
They
here
did.
says about 95, but I'd like to get that confirmed.
Okay.
Confirm the confidence level.
I thought it was supposed to be 95.
And if that no opinion group just put no opinion on every survey form, that doesn't really count as
Right.
any of the percentages.
Well, those are the chances you take when you do a survey.
Sure.
I understand that, but it should drop the confidence level how I'm making a decision. If I'm making it based on this money we spent and it doesn't mean anything, then I'm not happy.
Well, we
That
can,
was survey probably was as successful as most of the voter turnouts.
Well,
it's true.
But I also, with the age group too, I like, no.
yeah, it could be if they do the analysis on the no answer, no response by age group. That would be interesting to see too, where the apathy is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably not statistically significant, but we can ask about that. Seems to range from 1.4% to 5.
I don't know what we have to do to get more input. You know, not only in this survey, like I said, the voter turnout, our meetings, our volunteers. I mean, I think we've worked pretty hard at, you know, trying to entice people to come forward, but haven't been very successful for some reason.
You need something really controversial. You need a crisis. You need something where people are going to get their blood boiling.
And I realize it's not a city. It's not. We don't have a main street to but it's a beautiful town
Oh yeah.
that I personally take a lot of pride in, and without the support of the public, you know, it's going to be hard to keep it that way.
Well, I mean, a lot of people watch these meetings, and you hear people commenting. So there is some interest.
So I'm asking, you know, if there's anybody out there that would like to step forward,
The next big
Please do.
opportunity is we're going to have over.
because
the,
these guys are getting old.
We all acknowledge that. As my father said, I'd rather get old compared to the alternative.
Right.
Okay.
All right, we can leave that alone
Okay,
for
moving
now.
right along. So.
The next item has to do with our impact fee ordinance, the draft, and also the impact fee study that supports it. There was some changes to the impact fee study and a few to the actual ordinance itself. I know you indicated you found a few notes you wanted revised.
Yeah, I don't think the impact fee ordinance as presented is well written, and I think there are a lot of gaping holes in it. So I would not want to put that forward to a vote. I'd rather get it cleaned up so that it's very clear and it closes these gaping holes. The study itself is fine
Okay.
because I have no way to analyze it. You know, the study, the analysis is very, very good, and the specific elements in the ordinance based on the study are good. It's the other things, penalties, waivers, and things that are completely undefined, the kind of things that get yourself into a lot of trouble. If it's in an ordinance, you better spell it out. If you're going to charge somebody interest, you have to tell them what their interest rate is going to be. If you're going to have waivers, you have to spell out why we're going to have waivers, who would qualify for a waiver. Things like this, they're just hanging out there. And then
And
there's
what
some,
waivers consist of and everything.
and then some internal inconsistencies. Please refer to this below, and there's nothing like it below, so it has to be gone over, I think, with a fine-tooth comb to make sure it says precisely what we want it to say. So, for that reason, I don't want to put the ordinance for a vote. Like I said, the study, having read that a couple of times, I think it's very good. And it's a very good analysis of the cost structure, the credits, and why you need the impact fees. So if anybody's concerned about those things, I think they should really take advantage of, take the opportunity to study the impact fee study. Okay, so having said that, I'd rather send the ordinance back to the gone over very carefully, and I'll give you, Ned, I'll give you my comments, and Carrie,
Yes.
and anybody else who has comments, please do it. So we'll just hold off on that. Maybe we'll get that for the next meeting. We'll see. Okay.
Any other comments?
Brendan?
Oh,
Good with
Okay.
tabling it.
okay.
Moving right along. Watch out. So that brings us to Department of Public Works relocation project. So we are meeting almost weekly with our design team, Cross Consulting, and Matt Young, our municipal project manager. Right now we are finalizing our submittals, our plans to the DRB, because we're going to have a hearing on December 13th, which will discuss our project with the DRB at that time.
Well, I'd like to personally thank Matt and Cross Consulting for being. I check my emails every night, and I go over Matt's information on a nightly basis, and I always have questions that are answered within 24 hours by both Matt and Cross. So I think they're doing an excellent job.
Very responsive. That
Very
program
responsive.
online is really nice for
Yep.
all of us to be on the same page.
Yep.
And Alan and I recently met with Scott Robertson of VTrans regarding the salt shed grant. So I think we're on track to start moving forward with that. There's a whole host of requirements because it's a federally funded grant. But between Matt and Scott, I think we're going to be able to get that done. One of the things that someone had asked for is we have actual press release on our project, and I was waiting until we had met with Scott, and there's no requirements for that, so we're going to hopefully issue a press release soon sharing that we did get the grant, what it's for, what we're going to do with it, and so that will slowly proceed. One of the requirements, which is why I'm saying this today, is that we have a public concerns meeting. What that means is we put it on our agenda. It's on the agenda for the 17th of December. And if anyone has any concerns about that project or just wants to know more about it, they can come to that meeting, which is our next meeting. It's in 2 weeks.
You're talking about the salt shed project.
I'm talking about the salt shed project. They are certainly being presented together to the DRB, but as far as funding, they're being separated. And even in our plans, we put a very distinct line through the project that differentiates the salt shed from the shop itself.
Yeah,
Well, it has to be when you're using those kinds of, when you're using.
Yes, it does.
yeah, I mean, we had to keep the money straight and
Right.
time and everything else, and so it's
You simply run it as two different projects.
Right.
Two different projects, two different funding sources.
Yep.
So
I was
that's
going through the requirements of the grant, and boy, there's a lot. That's not easy money.
it is not.
A lot of work to be done.
Yes, it adds a few more layers to every single step of, but they have granted us almost $400,000, so
Yeah.
we will do it.
With a smile.
We will do
Better,
it.
because we're not giving it back.
Any deal breakers in there that could affect us?
No.
Not yet. I mean, honestly, our own flexibility is helping us to that end. When Alan and I were explaining to Scott that we're just looking for the best possible deal out there for a salt shed. We didn't have, like maybe the five of you didn't sit down and go, it must look like this. This must be the brand. I mean, we're flexible, so he was pleasantly surprised at our flexibility for that part of the project. The one piece we will have to be flexible on is the timeline. It will likely not be built at the same time as the other project because of all these layers of approval we have to go through.
And I think that just because we have two projects going on, it makes it that much more difficult. If we were doing a salt shed all by itself, the process would have been a little bit easier. But I think what they're looking for is, they're just watchdogs. They want to make sure the money's spent right, and the building is what we said it's going to be, and that we're relatively responsive to their request. Or we got to be responsive.
Yeah, we have to be. I mean, the federal grants there's boxes they have to check off, and there's no negotiating those items.
We can certainly live up to our end of the obligation.
So
Right.
we'll issue a press release. We're moving forward on the grant, and our hearing's coming up next week.
Can I ask a question on that? We talked about town meeting day only having one item on the ballot for the. Are we still doing it, or now with two separate projects with a lot of different funding? Do we have to have two separate items?
No, you don't have to have two separate items. I mean, you can if you choose to, but I mean, some municipal projects, as a conceptual design, are voted on with just that amount, that information. So you can still vote on it in March, even though most of it will be funded through this grant.
Yeah, but it's still, although they're separate, it's still the same.
It is the same concept, but that's a good point. So, I mean, I can ask him about that, but he didn't say anything about our portion is 20%. How we fund it is our business. So, asking our taxpayers for it in the same motion or separate motions is probably up to you.
Because you have to get approval. If you're going to look at it separately, you have to get approval to spend any tax dollars for any specific project. Unless you get approved for the project, you don't have funds.
It's more of an internal guideline here that we follow.
No, these are state guidelines, I believe.
I don't see a big deal of having it on the article. I don't even really see it as too different.
The only issue I would see is, in order to put it in the article, we have to have a very good idea of what it's going to cost.
Yes. Yep.
Because the garage itself, we will have bids in hand and so on, well beforehand.
Right, so we're moving forward with putting the bids out for the garage, and we are still going to ask for bids for the garage, even though through this grant process, there's a long list of things we need to do before we can officially bid it. We may end up bidding it twice, but what the January bids are going to do is allow us to get real prices on how much a salt shed is going to cost.
Yeah, we need something we can. A good set of numbers.
But just so just to be aware that we will likely be bidding it a second time once we've
fair enough.
complied with all the grant requirements.
Bid it the first time for budgetary reasons, basically.
Yep, since they're tied together.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
All right, so the next item is an update on the Town Forest Master Trail Plan. The Parks Committee has been meeting quite regularly, and we put out I put this on the agenda because I think somebody asked me recently why we were putting an RFP out for this this work, and I wanted to clarify that over the past 18 months, we've been getting grants for the trail work. It's come from a variety of sources, probably 5 different sources. But we are at about $38,000 confirmed and likely to get $43,000 of grant funds for our trail work. And recently, the bid that we put out was for phase 1, 2, and 3 of the master trail plan. We didn't get a huge response from that, but we did get one from someone who's already done work up there, Sinuosity. And so what you have in your packets was the bid for that phase 1, 2, and 3 of the work, which totaled about $43,000. The good news is this fall, we also had our initial class from the tech center go up to the forest, and the tech center did a fabulous job. Alan has gone up there. There's a couple other people that have gone up there, and we're amazed in a positive way about what they accomplished in such a short period of time.
The BFA Tech Center.
The BFA Tech Center. Yeah, so that hopefully will be a fall and spring thing that will help us maintain and even expand our trails. But this year, what it allowed us to do was bid the project and exclude that initial intro bike trail because the Tech Center, actually with Alan's help and Ned's help, got it done.
How many students did we have from the Tech Center up there?
Oh, I
Any
figured
idea
that
at any
out.
one given time?
I owed them a letter too on that. It was like 25.
It was, 2 classes a day, and I think, 24 students a day,
Yes.
I would say.
Wow, that's a
For
pretty good
about-
turnout. Yeah,
A total of 4 hours each day for a better part of a week.
that's
So
fantastic.
they got a lot of work done, and they're really excited about it. I guess Mike Kane reports that it's already one of those classes that's anticipated enough to fill up right away, and people are wondering if they're going to get in.
Wow.
So it's good work. That didn't cost us any money, obviously, directly, and so that's what we bid the work on. I'm likely going to award that bid to Sinuosity because they will also work with us, because in the spring, if we don't get the mountain bike grant, we applied to the state mountain bike hub. They will work with us to do some in-kind work to make up the difference.
So I would like to see a newspaper article with a big picture of all those kids at the park, praising them so that their parents can read it with pride.
That would be great.
I'll make a note.
Thank you.
And Mike Kane and Jacob Holsworth
And,
Hill, I think, are the teachers.
Could you kind of hurry a little bit with that because of what we talked about? You know,
We'll get the kids out of class for a picture.
God, I can hear the Golden Girls song.
I don't want to say it, but
Yeah. So it's good work, and the work of the committee. They've been really helpful and supportive. Rise Vermont, local Rotary Club. There's a lot of people that help fund that. So we're doing this, after our more critical works like the DPW and the health pass.
that was probably one of the more successful programs we've had, isn't it?
It's pretty popular, yeah, and it continues to be. But know that the town forest drive is not maintained all year round, so you
Yeah.
have to be cognizant of that when you attempt to use that road.
Still, great outcome.
All right, so that was just an update so people
Just one
understood
comment.
where we
Most of
were.
these trails and paths are multi-use,
Yes,
but one of them I see is just going to be for mountain bikes.
correct.
Now, is that, why would it be exclusively for mountain bikes?
It has curves and different things in it that they
Yeah,
put in
there's
there.
curves and so on.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you wouldn't
banks.
want to put like a 4-wheeler on a mountain bike
No, you
trail.
can't have four-wheelers there.
Or-
There's no motorized stuff allowed in there.
I mean, someone could probably hike it if they wanted, but it's intended to introduce kids to that type of sport, which is definitely
If you ever
different.
want to go on a field trip and see a really nice mountain bike setup, is down at Sugar Bush. They did a fantastic job down there with their trails.
Okay, so I will keep going. Got quite a few things here. So the next item is the old fire department boat. Bob Cross is here. Chief Cross is here. We did put it out to bid a couple weeks ago. We did find out that one of the departments that had expressed interest decided they did not want to bid. So what you have is the only bid we received for the fire department.
Yeah, I had heard that there was another fire department from New York, on the New York side, that was actually interested in it, but I put the word out that to look on our website, and so we didn't put a bid in, if that makes sense.
I mean, it was advertised in the paper too. But.
Yeah.
What year is this boat?
91.
Wow. So you bid on it, huh? No. No. Well, it looks like this is the only bid, so it's the Swanton Village Fire Department.
Oh, nice.
And we have a bid of $7,000. And if we agree to award it, it's a 10% down payment of $700, and the remainder of $6,300 to be paid in a bank check. Simple as that. I mean, that's what we got. And
What were you expecting for the boat, Bob?
I was figuring around between 5 and 6.
I think it's a pretty good bid myself.
I do too.
So thank you, Swanton
Awesome.
Fire Department.
And I think what you had described, Bob, was that they would take possession of it fairly soon,
Yes.
if that happens. So we can,
And you know,
Bob
the
and
other,
I can
the other
figure that
nice
out.
thing about this is to have another boat on the lake so close to us.
Mhm.
You know,
Correct.
Yeah, it's all good.
They come out and help us out on Bay Day and everything with their small boat, the little flat bottom. I think it's a 16-footer or something.
Yeah.
And now
That's
they'll be
fantastic.
able to put something a little bit
So-
bigger in the water. So.
Very good.
yeah.
Yep.
So look for.
I don't need a motion. I
Don't
can,
need a motion.
No, I can do that with Bob.
Okay.
I can sign any papers we need to sign.
Well, thank you,
Does
Swanton.
revenue end up back
The
in
boat,
his
what
reserve?
goes with it?
Take a look.
The engine?
Boat, trailer,
Yeah.
motor, and whatever mooring lines there were
Yeah.
with it. And I believe we have a sonar on it. That'll go with it because we have it on our boat already anyway. So, and there'll be there's a map system that goes with it, Lake Champlain charts and stuff. So that'll go with it too.
Is
It's
there anyone
probably
here?
a couple of $1,000s more than I was expecting, but even still, they got a good deal.
Yep, they did.
Is there anyone here from Swanton?
They meet tonight, so I
Oh,
can
okay.
I can
So
let
like,
them know.
like you guys do. Okay,
Sure.
perfect. Thank you. I don't have anything else under town manager.
Okay, so
The revenue from that sale, does that end up back in the fire department reserve?
Yes.
Yes.
The fire department equipment,
The reserve.
use of funds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good enough.
Okay.
That brings us to public comment.
The
Ladies, come
Lake
on up
Shore.
front.
Yes, we have Anna, Gagne, and Jessica.
Brendan, would you get a chair?
get another chair for the ladies.
Okay, I'm Anna Gagne. I live on Palm Shore. I've been there 46, going on 47 years. I ride my bike and I walk a lot. And since the last paving a couple of years ago, I've been holding my breath, waiting for the shoulders to be paved. I got sick of holding my breath, and so I went out this fall. And after a couple of months, I happened to meet one of Nelson's farm trucks loaded with insulage. And I intended only to go to the edge of the road, but my tire went over and I ended up face first in the ditch. It took my eye doctor 20 minutes to straighten the frames of my glasses. I had a crick in my neck for a while. But I very much want to see these shoulders paved. Carrie and I talked about a bike path. I don't know. Maybe I'm only going to ride my bike another 10 years, so it takes a long time to get a bike path. But if we could get these shoulders paved, I would be really, really happy. And my daughter, who grew up on McQuam Shore, is a bike rider. She lives in Burlington now. But she says, oh, Mom, they have maps out of Champlain bikeways, and McQuam Shore is on those maps. And so she said, they're advertising McQuam Shore as a bikeway. You people need to do something to make it more hospitable to bikers and hikers.
Who puts this out? It
It's
says Lake Champlain
Champlain
Byway.
Byway.
Champlain Bikeways. It's a website.
Okay, let's see it.
So basically, you had asked me you wanted to come forward just to express your request for us to pave the shoulders of the road, right?
Yes.
And I'm neighbors, so Anna called me just because she knows that I'm always here advocating for walking and biking. And And of course, you know, I feel like Saint Albans, you know, we've been here 11 years now, and out of all the places we've lived, there's really a great sense of community and people really caring about this town and wanting to make it the best town it can be. And I think, you know, one of the ways to build community is to make it easy for people to go to their neighbors' houses and for kids to go play at their neighbors' houses. And right now, the way many of our streets are just doesn't feel safe to travel. You know, there's big trucks, there's distracted drivers, there's just more cars on the road. I know a boy at town school in my daughter's class was also hit by a car just last month, not on McQuam Shore, but on Lower Newton, and he ended up falling off his bike and had a big gash on his face. My own husband, he runs in the early morning, and he's been, the car has directly aimed at him while he's been running, trying to run him off the road. There's just, I feel like, a lot more incidences happening lately, and a bike path is a big undertaking, but we've had so much great enthusiasm with the town forest and, you know, so many people coming in to pitch in with these bike trails that I feel like it could be the beginning. It's a real opportunity to really make St. Albans town, you know, not only to accommodate people who've been living here forever, but it could help draw in tourism dollars. It could make people who are looking for places to live want to relocate here. There's even a website up now that gives every town a walkability score because people want that when they're house hunting. And the town, 95% of it right now is scoring a 0 because we just don't have safe walking and biking. So if there's anything that I can do, you know, both as a citizen of the town and working for Rise Vermont, I'd love to help support that moving forward. There are some grants out there that we could work with staff to eventually go after.
When we've talked about this, we've come into some technical issues. Maybe I could ask Alan to explain some of these problems that we have.
Well, one of the situations with along McQuam Shore, it was paved before I started here, and
Hey, Alan, could you tell these ladies who you are in case they don't know?
I'm Alan Master. I'm the Director of Public Works for the town. So in this situation, it's been a couple years since I got paved. Some of the shoulders, the grass has grown back to. In some of the areas, the road is too narrow with the ditch being so close. Generally, you don't pave shoulders of the road. You put down gravel. And usually the grass grows up through to make a sub-base. In bike path situations, the roads are wider and they paint a bike path along the edge. Unfortunately, with the farmland and the camps and everything along McQuam Shore, that would be a big undertaking on the town to get easements and widen ditches and stuff like that, is my understanding. I did tell the select board that I would work on the shoulders putting stone in, but this is the wrong time of the year to do it. I'll have to do it in the spring of the year because right now the plow is just going to push it off on everybody's lawn. So come the spring of the year, I will be trying to fix some of the lower shoulders along the road, but that will be stone for now.
It does seem like the ditches are pretty wide. Maybe they could give up a little of the ditch.
It's I'd hate to say that, but there's so much water issues along McQuam. If you get down along where the gun club is, those ditches are full right now, and we don't have a lot of snow, and we haven't even hit the spring of the year with runoff. So my concern is in the way the state is with ditch right-of-ways and culverts are being increased in size. The ditches are starting to be stone lined. There's no way to make a ditch smaller. If anything, they make them bigger.
So are there alternative things that we could do in a situation like that where to try to make it safer for people, like reduce the speed limit, no parking signs, no parking along the edge of the road? I mean, if we can't make the road wider and if we can't put bike paths in, what can we do to make the present situation safer than what it is now?
It's hard.
We'll have to think
it's
about
hard,
it,
honestly.
you know?
I mean, I think what we need to do is going forward as a town when we're restructuring roads and that's the time to make them wider. A lot of the roads that are established already, it's hard to do. I mean, you're talking getting easements from every landowner along that road. I mean, we have a right-of-way, but when you make that right-of-way bigger, then your right-of-way is getting even bigger. You know what I'm saying? So you're starting to cut into people's property. And then to add the other downfall with paving and adding, you're always going to have a joint. So when you do that, it's a case where you want to grind your road down, make it wider, and then pave it. Because if you've ever gone from Georgia to Milton, you ever notice the roads like this? There's like a 3-foot section that's always lower. That's when they widened the road. They broke it down and they made it wider. I think it's important to have the walking and bike paths. I'm a huge advocate of that. I think we got to put them in the right places, connecting the rail trail to some of the other upper roads. It doesn't help you as an individual at your house, but you might have to take your bicycle and get to the safe places to use it.
So to that end, I mean, Ned's here too from planning. The Planning Commission has started to actually dig into our master trail, our master sidewalk plan, and start to work on that. So maybe you can just briefly explain what the Planning Commission is doing, which is good news.
Yeah, we're trying to do, or looking into the long range for walking trails all around town, not only in the forest, but from various neighborhoods in and around town. But I'm going to say basically ditto to what Alan said. It's McQuam Shore, and I just want to add the one thing that he didn't say was when you widen it, there's a whole bunch of culverts out there that are going to need to be extended. And that changes how the drainage is and all sorts of other easements come into play. It's not an easy place to add on. It's not as if you can slap on 2 extra feet and pave that sort of gravel area that's there. In some places, it's just not that easy. And I ride McQuam Shore on my bike almost every day, and the speed limit is a factor especially along from in the lower Newton area. It's worse than in other areas.
Lower Newton Road, I think, is 50. And I mean, I ride my bike on Lower Newton to McQuam, and it's scary.
So that's what I meant when I said if we can't make the improvements that we need, the physical improvements that we need to make, let's try to improve what we've got right now to make it safer. Let's take a look at the speed limits, and let's take a look at the if there's parking or people are apt to park beside the roads, because a lot of those camps down there, I'm sure, don't have any land. And the cars are sticking out in the roads and stuff like that. So maybe we could try to improve on what we have.
I noticed that it's a problem. I don't find myself biking around cars.
Well, I'm just saying that some of the camps down there don't have much land. I've been down like on the 4th of July and stuff like that. When they have groups of people there, I've seen cars parked along the side of the roads and stuff.
Oh, yeah. On that day,
yeah.
It's bad. It can be very bad.
And the other thing is that stretcher road from after you go over the Black Bridge, and where the plumber lives there that has a white fence.
Yep.
That straight stretch of road right there, boy, people sometimes like to truck right around. It's almost like it's a go zone. You know what I mean? We could monitor that, or have the police department monitor that, and start giving people some tickets to slow them down.
Bob, you have a comment?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to ask. I know that's a state road, right? It's an extension of 36. Am I right? Or does 36 end at Black Bridge?
It ends.
Black Bridge.
Because I was gonna say, I mean, I drive 36 to Fairfield and Bakersfield just about once a week, and especially in the summertime. And I mean, I have bicycles on that road all the time, and it just seems a lot wider than McQuam and Newton Road for sure. Because it's a state road, but I always thought that was a state road. I know
It was
Newton
at
Road.
one time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was an extension of 36. It went all the way to Swanton.
Because you remember that when that was repaved, it changed the whole,
Right, and,
Oh,
and I was just wondering if that still held its same class or not. I mean, if it doesn't hold the same class, then of course it's gonna be narrower, but if it's a class, whatever the state roads are, I don't know why it's narrower than the other state roads.
It's not a state road, though.
Okay.
Well, it's just too bad because that McGuam Shore is just a beautiful place.
I mean, you take your
That's
life in
the
your own
walking.
hands when you either walk or bicycle on either there or Newton. I mean, speed
Right.
limit's 40 on McQuam, it's 50 on Lower Newton.
I think when you go into a recreational area like that, especially in the summer, 40's too high.
Yeah,
It's too
I don't
much.
drive 40 anyway.
25.
45 or more.
Studies
Right.
where they've dropped the speed and then they paint the shoulder so
Yeah.
the road feels narrower
Yeah.
and then cars drive slower.
Yeah. Well, that's just it, and it's even more dangerous because of the width of the road.
And of course, it's agricultural, so I mean, you know, the trucks are getting bigger and wider, and they're carrying heavier loads, and that's the bad part is in the fall of the year when they're hauling corn and silage. Well, that is terrible. I mean, I live down there. I know what it's like. I've watched the trucks all the
I
time.
have to say, on behalf of this person that I met, they were actually already trying to turn out for me. And when she saw me go in the ditch, this beautiful young slim woman got out and helped me. I was a little amazed. I thought I'd see some big burly guy get out of this great big truck. I'd like to ask you, Alan, when will McQuam Shore be paved again? Maybe just because I've lived there a long time, I've seen it paved a lot of times.
Yeah,
That's why the shoulders are sometimes 4 inches below the road.
It won't be on the list for another 8-9 years.
And we don't pave any shoulders in the town of St. Albans right now. We don't pave any roads. Any roads that we pave,
Well, we gotta make this one
we don't
first.
pave
Start
shoulders
doing
right
it.
now.
It's,
But I will say that the planning commission is, Ned didn't get into a lot of the details, but they are evaluating what paths are at the top of the master sidewalk plan, and so perhaps we can mention that this has been brought up, and maybe McQuam Shore can make its way onto the list. That's how things are going to get recognized and funded and actually then constructed. So it's not an immediate answer, but it is an option that we can push forward with.
We appreciate it.
You know, you see, again, that leads right back to what I was saying. It takes people like yourself that come in, talk to us, air your concerns, and let's work together to see if we can come to some sort of a mutual satisfactory type thing. But I personally would like to take a look. I'd like to suggest take a look at those speed limits, though.
I agree.
We have, Rise Vermont is having Mark Fenton, who's a national walkability expert, come visit in June. He came about 4 years ago. So he'll be looking at the town, and if there's areas that we really want him to look at and give some expert advice on, we can ask him those specific areas too. So it's a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, just I would like to add, because of that, it is a summer, not only a long-term or year-round residence, but you have a lot of summer people there. It is a high recreation area, as I see it when I drive.
Oh, it is.
So it seems to me we have an obligation to figure out how to make it safe
Exactly.
to walk, drive. So I hear that the path is gravel and all that. Even if we put gravel, that doesn't make it easier for bikes to ride, as I recall.
Well, it's gravel and grass. Over the years that I've ridden, it hasn't been terrible. Not as bad as it is now.
Okay.
Are you talking gravel or something like a shore pack or something like that?
Fine.
I mean,
It's
it's got
it's
to
a
be
plant
pervious,
mix.
right?
Yeah, it's like a 5/8 plant mix that
Yeah.
has dirt mixed in, so it packs in. And that's the other thing is if you've noticed with the last paving bid that I did, I had shoulder work bid on that jobs. The town is not set up and
Right.
equipped to do 5 miles of shoulder work.
Right.
We have to do shoulders by hand, and if you're doing 5 miles of shoulder work,
Yeah.
you're never going to get anything else done in the town. So if you notice, from here on out, when I do a paving bid, it will have a shoulder work bid also.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll give you a great example. Bronson Road got done this year, and I'd say 75 to 80% of that road has the ditch so close I could only put a 6-inch shoulder on the road. It's very unfortunate, but like I said, when it comes to drainage, there's so many different state laws. Like a lot of those ditches got lined with 5-inch stone, which isn't the pleasant thing to do a face dive into if you get crowded off the road. Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many guidelines that we've got to follow. State drainage and runoff. We got to control our roads. And like Bob said, most of our roads are class 2 roads. So the majority of our roads are only 22 tops, 22 and a half feet wide.
And,
You
and
get
that's,
onto a class 1, you know, it's another 2 to 4 feet wider.
yeah. And let's keep in mind, that's in the summer, in good conditions. In the winter, they get a little narrower in some spots because of the buildup of snow and stuff, when you can't push it back.
Which side is more conducive to putting in a extended bike path?
Well,
East or
can I
west?
say something before you say that? State law says bicycles have to go in the same direction as cars.
Oh, so you have to have both
Bikes
sides.
It's illegal to go against traffic. So if you're going to do it, you got to have wide enough shoulders on both sides. Otherwise, you're going against the state law.
Wow,
Or
I
you
didn't
do
know
a
that.
separate, entirely
Bicycles
separate.
Different with pedestrians.
Right.
Runners and pedestrians
Yeah.
can go against traffic, but bikers are supposed to go with traffic.
No.
That's a state law.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
still
ladies.
think
Drive safely.
that we,
For all of this being
You're certainly not on the bikes tonight. Are you?
but Jessica, I do think that expert that's coming to Vermont Rise would be helpful to us to think long term. We may not be able to solve it in the short term.
Right.
But if we had an ideal plan and we knew what it would cost, the other thing I would ask is that people who, on whatever, both sides now, but if they would start deeding us the right of way, you're always going to have some people you have to go to court. But on the other hand, I think a lot of people would just donate that strip of land to the town for recreation. It's to their advantage for the sale price of their home. It's not a loss.
I was down to Anna's house the day after she had fallen. Gabe was outside, and I stopped to check to see how you were doing. That was me that stopped, and Gabe showed me down the road, the next 2 houses down from you, the trees are for privacy to get in there. I don't think that people would, with all that traffic, won't allow anybody to cut that brush down. It's high cedars. Yeah.
Well, they cut it every once in a while anyway, because, well, I don't know about the town. The state owns 15 feet from the center of the road, right? Because we've had stuff that we planted too close, and they told us to cut it.
Well, the town owns it now, but the state
Town.
may have done that in the
15
past.
feet from the center for the town too.
We
It
have
hap-
45 and a half.
I was going to say it's usually more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in order to do something like that, you'd have to get everybody.
I believe
It can't
Alan
be
went
spotty.
down. You checked that whole road, Alan, and you know where there's
There
some
are
bad
some
spots,
bad
and you
spots
will
that need
take
to be
care of those
filled in.
bad spots.
The other,
Thank you.
The other thing when we come along this is a lot of people have beautiful lawns along there. So when you pave that road and you go down through, and if you're able to put a 1-foot shoulder and you start putting gravel down over their lawn, they're not real happy either. So, but
But we will do it.
we have to do it.
It's on state property. It's on
Town property.
town
Yep.
property, right?
Well, we don't own it. We just have the right of way to use it.
And make it safe for the vehicular traffic.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
thank you.
Like suggestion of speed limits. It's a good call.
Okay. Carrie, you're still on.
All right, so the schedule, it's pretty
I
straightforward.
should ask if there's any other public comment before we move on that. Okay.
All right. So our schedule for December is pretty straightforward. We have tonight's meeting. Next week we have our first budget meeting on the 10th, and our next regular select board meeting is on the 17th at 6:30. And doesn't seem like it, but then we're also mentioning our January 7th select board meeting. Is our first one in January.
Do you have any other business anyone would like to bring up?
Move to adjourn.
If not, okay, right on time.
Yep.
Anybody opposed to adjournment? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn, thank you.
Get home and see Dancing with the Stars, huh?